Don't think this is gonna work. Wait a minute. Oh my goodness. No way. No way. I don't have this hose down there. Just go down. Don't you want to go to your home? If you have a BMW with a B48 engine in it, B46 here in the States for some of us, like this 2017 F31 Touring 330i, that's what I've got. And you're unfortunate enough to take a rock through the front bumper and put a hole in your front heat exchanger, or perhaps you're just an idiot and drop something in the engine bay. I don't know how anybody could ever possibly do something as stupid as that. Well, then you might have a hole either in your front heat exchanger or even in your radiator. There's a whole bunch of videos out there on how to do this with the B58 engine, but not a lot really on the B48. But we're gonna go ahead and fix the radiator today, and I'm gonna intermix some video between the heat exchanger and the radiator. Here we go, let's get started. Now the first part is we gotta get this cowling off here. So we'll pop that right off. There's a little grommet right over here. Now here's where a lot of things differ from the B58. A lot of guys will take off their intakes, including any of the tubing or piping that goes into it. With the B48, it is a smaller engine, so you have plenty more room to be able to work without having to do that. So once you get that off, you can skip that whole part. That's kind of the nice part. But the next part we gotta do is we gotta take this radiator fan shroud out. The other thing you're going to want to do before you get started is disconnect the battery in the back. That way we just don't run into any issues that you just don't need to run into. Taking a look through here, there's a tubing that runs right on top of the radiator fan shrouding. We're going to disconnect that, kind of roll that on the inside. Next, there is a T30 screw right here. We're going to disconnect that right now. Now, if it's already looking like, hey, some of those are pretty loose, well, yeah, it's because this is my second time doing this. I'm not proud of it. All right, now that our T30 is out of here, now what we have is we have this little connector right here. This little connector right here is holding some of the wiring here, and we need to get that loose. In order to do that, I have my pick tool here. It slides in pretty nicely. Put a little gentle prying, and there you go. It all pops out in one piece. Now that we got that disconnected, we're gonna reach way down in there and disconnect some of the wiring itself. And it's pretty easy to do. There's a little clip right down in here. So in order to do that, there's two little clips, and you just pop that right off. The next step, the radiator fan shroud right here, okay? This is very easy. Once you remove that screw, the passenger side likes to rise up pretty darn easy. It's the driver's side that's gonna be a little bit more of the issue, and I'm gonna try and show you guys what I mean by that. I can just shove this light down in here. In order to get this radiator fan shrouding out of here, what we have to do is put a screwdriver down in here, and we have to push in a little tab that's going to allow this to slide right out. There we go. You gotta push on it pretty darn good. There it is. All right, so now this is going to come straight out. You have to finagle it a little bit, I guess. And there it comes. All right, we're gonna set this aside. Now that we've got the radiator fan shroud out, we've got to get this piece off. Now this has a set of T40s, T30s, and a couple T45s in here. This is what got me into trouble the last time, the T45s. So have a tight grip on your equipment when you're using it. Next up, T40s. After we get all those out, we also have to take out these T30s here for the headlight brackets. So there's a T30 here and a T30 there. Rinse and repeat on this side as well. T30 here, T30 there. Once you get these T30s out, these rotate out, back, up, and out. Lastly, our T45s here. So these are the last two main ones. After all those are out, then we need to expose what's underneath these little things here. So probably need to take like a little screwdriver and pop these off. But there's a little clip in here. Oh, there we go. Got that one. Make sure you don't lose these on both sides here. So once we get both of these off, those exposed, those little tabs, what we'll need to do is pinch this here and put a little screwdriver up underneath, and we should be able to lift that up and out. Now the way that this comes out is fairly straightforward, but the hood latches, you need to kind of slide to the side and kind of slide underneath as this thing comes up, if you just don't want to completely remove them, which, I mean, I don't. So a little quick slide side to side there. and this piece comes right out. All right, we are down to the radiators now. So we've got to be able to get this out. There is, I believe, this is a T30 on both sides to help get this little piece out of here. So let's double check that. I believe it's a T30. So actually that is a T25. Now that both T25s are out, we can actually lift this up. And now we've got exposure to our radiator and to our front heat exchanger. Now that we're down to the radiator and the front heat exchanger, this is where it will diverge a little bit, but the first thing we have to do before we diverge is actually drain the coolant. Now, if you've already taken a rock or put a large hole in your radiator, pretty much all of that coolant has leaked out already, so it shouldn't really be an issue. When I disconnected the hosing or the tubing to the front heat exchanger last time, there was absolutely nothing left in it. It had all drained out. For the radiator, this might be a different issue. We'll see. Now, most people will go ahead and lift up their car. I don't have any lifts. I don't have any ramps for this either. So I've got a very low kind of profile basin here that I'm going to slide up underneath there. I can see some holes where things should drain through. So that's where we're going to plan to catch everything here. And then I'm going to show you guys how to disconnect the hosing right now. And it's got these little clips that you have to lift up and then pull off. So here we go. Probably the best way to take off this little clip is a little right angle pick tool. And I'll show you guys over here on this one. So right here is the little clip that we need to disconnect. What you'll do is slide your pick tool up underneath there and then pull up. That one went a little easier than expected. But from there, then you can disconnect this by pulling pretty firmly on there. So for the radiator, there's one here, and then there's one lower one right here. Now below that one, you can see way down here, this is the one for the front heat exchanger. So you'll have to disconnect that one if you're working on your front heat exchanger. This one for the radiator. Also, the front heat exchanger has this tube underneath here as well, so you'll have to disconnect that as well for the front heat exchanger to get that one out. I'm going to focus on this radiator here first, so we're going to get started with that. We're going to start with this lower hosing first. Hopefully there's not a lot left in here. But I quickly forgot all about how much coolant was in there because, as you can see, no matter how hard I pulled, tugged, pushed, it didn't matter. These things were not coming off without a fight. But eventually, I got it. I finally got both hoses disconnected from the radiator. The upper hose was a little bit easier, was able to use a screwdriver and kind of gently pry it. But the bottom one, holy moly, you can tell the sun has shifted, the shade has come up. And long ago, somebody left with the cup. So if you look down in here, this thing, I pulled the clip off. It just straight back, 2 hands, had to put some gloves on there and just crank that thing back. It took a little while. So now that that's off, we can actually start working on getting this radiator out. When I was putting the heat exchanger in here, this thing shifted forward pretty well. But because the CSF heat exchanger is a bit bigger, this may not come out so easily. Oh, yeah, baby. So you can see here, this right here, how this shifted forward, this makes it easier for you to get to your heat exchanger because there's a little clip right down here. That is what has to be undone for you in order to get the heat exchanger out. So it has one over here. The more difficult one is over here on the driver's side. That one is pretty difficult to deal with. Let me see if I can get this radiator out and show you guys a little bit better. All right, still got some fluid in it. It's leaking. Whew. All right, we're gonna set this aside. I think from here, it's time to get the new one in. This is the new radiator from CSF. So we've already put in the CSF heat exchanger, which is already bigger, and I believe this one is bigger as well. Shouldn't have any issues with cooling this engine after we get done, which is going to be nice because I'm planning to do some upgrades and see how far we can take this B48 engine. It's still kind of like a daily driver. I'm not trying to track this thing or anything. Looks pretty good. Looks very similar. Let's pull this out. What's nice about these CSF radiators and heat exchangers is they are all just metal. So no plastic components to break. So we'll back these out, make sure these are all going to allow just everything to sit where it needs to be. Wait a minute. I don't have this hose down there. There's no hose like that down there. Are you kidding me right now? It's a bit of an issue. I guess this is not for the F30 or F31. I don't know what happened here. I'm gonna have to take a look here. Let's see here. They sent a B58 radiator. Now, a lot of you guys are probably saying this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He just ordered the wrong part. But I assure you, I went through the efforts here on their website, put in all the information, and the only trim available was the base trim that you can see there. And sure enough, you can see over here, F3X, the F series. It even has the 330i there. And to top it all off, which I was pretty sold on, I even had the green check mark that says, hey, this will fit even with the base trim. Now here's where I went wrong. I even pulled up all these photos, took a look at the photos. Looks pretty good here from the front. And now here we are, we have the backside view. Now we got the lower radiator hose, the upper, but I didn't see this little tiny port way down here on the left driver's side portion of the radiator. Either way, I probably should have looked a little closer, maybe done a little bit more investigation before buying this thing, but it's here now and it's been opened, so it's time for it to go in. But before we could do that, we had to do something about that open port down on that driver's side. So it was a quick trip to Napa Auto Parts in order to get a coolant bypass cap, and we were back in business. Back from the store, I've got the plugs for the lower part of the radiator flange that we need to block off, but let me make sure this thing's actually gonna go in because I don't know if it's going to. See, I don't know if it's an oil cooler down there or what, but this right here, I don't think it's gonna slide past this right here. So we get that out of the way. Sure enough, hold on a second. We're gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna take the heat exchanger actually fully out and see if we can get that flange to sit underneath whatever it is down there. I don't know if that's a like oil cooler or whatever that is down there, but we're gonna try one last thing because I really do want this to work and I'd like to be able to drive this car this week rather than waiting on a part again. So let's see where this goes. Now, when you are taking out your heat exchanger, because this is probably a great opportunity to show you guys how to take out your busted heat exchanger, right here at the top of the heat exchanger, there is a flange right here. So you have to disconnect this hose, and then there is one deeper down, way down here. So same thing, there's a clip that you have to pull off, and then it should just disconnect straight away. Let's see if we're gonna get some coolant leaking off of this one. Nope, because it's already empty. There we go. That one's disconnected. Pull that off. This is actually, ooh, why is that? It's not blue anymore. Like yellowish. That's weird. Why is that brown? I just installed this thing like a week ago and put coolant in it. That part is blue coming out of the hose. That was really weird that was brownish coming out of there. This is a brand new heat exchanger. The next thing we got to do to get the heat exchanger out, which is pretty straightforward now that the radiator is completely out of there, is there's two little pinch tabs either on the left and on the right side. After that, this heat exchanger is free and should just come straight out. I wonder if this is going to make it easier to get this radiator in like we want it. And if you're thinking, oh, well, that's super easy for him to take it out because he had the radiator out. Well, here's a shot of me doing it a week before with the heat exchanger, taking that out while the radiator is still in. Now, it makes it a lot easier though if you take the front bumper off, because then you get that little extra bit of room in order to get this thing out, and it comes out quite easy. So now that we got the old heat exchanger out, we are gonna put the new one back in, and this is the one from CSF. This one's pretty nice because it's got a rock guard on there, so which is the whole reason we're in the situation in the first place. So now you got your CSF heat exchanger. This is gonna slide right in here. Now this is super easy because we have the radiator out of the way since we are having problems with our radiator. But when this goes right in, it'll sit right down in the shroud here. You want to sit it back as far as you can. You want to push on the bottom part back as far as it'll go, so that we have plenty of room. And then those two little pinch tabs that we loosened up last time, you're going to push that forward until they engage. You may have to kind of stick your hand back here and pinch, and a little manipulation, and that should get it where we need it to be. So when you guys are putting your heat exchanger in, there's a little bar right there. You're going to want to make sure that it sits not in this first one, but back in this second one here. Same thing on the other side. I mean, there's so much room for activities down there. Why shouldn't it fit? Unless we take the front bumper off, and then I can move this whole shroud and everything back, and then see if we can get at that. I don't know. Let's give that a shot. Let's see. All right, bumper off. Oh, why did that come off so easy? Well, you'll find out in another episode. Oh, oh! All right, so now that's leaned back maybe another degree or two. Before this radiator could go back in, we obviously have to get that port blocked off because this clearly just isn't going to work if we don't have it there. Now, this bypass coolant cap that I got from Napa Auto Parts, it's a 3/4 inch cap that fits pretty snugly over the port. After it's on, we're just going to secure it with a clamp to make sure that it stays where it needs to stay. Now, the issue with these caps from Napa is that according to the internet and all the research that I did, these can fail within a few months. My recommendation is to look for a company called HPS Performance. These guys make a much more durable, reinforced silicone bypass cap that tends to last a lot longer, at least according to the internet research that I did. It is a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, it's probably not going to leave you stranded on the side of the road. And if you guys have used either of these caps, let me know what your experience has been down in the comments below. With the coolant bypass cap now in place, I can now get ready to put the radiator actually in the car. So with a lot of manipulation, a tug on the shrouding, and a few Happy Gilmore quotes. Don't you want to go to your home? Don't you want to go to your home? The radiator went in. Is that, oh man, yeah, I think this is going to work. Holy smokes, we might have done it. Now that the B58 radiator was in, the last thing to do before truly declaring victory was to remove the blue covering. I had left this on to make sure that we didn't have any issues while installing it. And once it was removed, I celebrated just a little. Oh, I did it. It is in. Woo! But there's really not a lot of time to celebrate. Start with the hoses. Because now we got to put it back together. So, heat exchanger hose going back on. But it's not quite putting it back together in the reverse order. There's a few key differences now. The first of which are these little grommets that you can see here. Now these might be sitting a little high, and they're also one on the top and one on the bottom, so you may need to adjust those down a little bit before you actually install the radiator. Because if you don't, it could be a little bit more difficult getting those hoses back on. The other key thing here is to not install the lower radiator hose just yet either, because you're gonna need to put in the fan shrouding first before you do that. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the fan shroud in. All right, the radiator shroud seems to fit back on there very nicely. The radiator, the new one, does stick forward a lot more. Let's see if we can get this thing to seat properly. So what's happening is there's two tabs on the flange and they are getting stuck. The lower one here. Ooh, oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Now it fits. The lower radiator hose does not go on until the fan is actually in. And now let's see if it'll connect. And now we can finish getting this thing buttoned up. This has been hard. Had to figure this all out on my own. So hopefully you guys are going to get some benefit out of this. Before going any further, I needed 3 of these little 10mm bolts. 2 of them will go on the passenger side to help secure the fan shroud to the radiator itself, and 1 of them goes on the driver's side. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have waited to hook up the hoses on the driver's side before actually putting in the 10mm bolt on the fan shroud. That would have secured it a lot better there. I've had 0 problems driving around with it like this, but in hindsight, something that I probably should have done before putting the radiator hoses on. So we're going to tighten the... So I basically put 2 of the 10mm bolts back in on the passenger side. 1 to hold the fan shroud in place just next to the electrical connector, and then this top one to hold the whole fan shroud in place so it don't go nowhere. I think before I put everything back in place, I'm going to start filling up each of the reservoirs, and then we'll run the bleed procedure. That way, in case we run into any issues, I'm already halfway into this thing and I can actually see where it's coming from if it's leaking anywhere. So let's do that next. So after refilling each of the reservoirs until they were completely full and didn't fill anymore, well then I just let them bubble down, and after that, filling them a few more times, it was time to start the bleed procedure. The way to do that is we will go ahead and push on the start button once. That'll get us into accessory mode. We're gonna turn the heat up all the way on both sides, and then we're gonna make sure the fan system is all the way down at the lowest. I don't know why it turned off, but let's see. I'm gonna hold the brake or the gas pedal down for 10 seconds. I can hear the pumps running. So it sounds like they are running. Oh yeah, we are completely empty. You're gonna need to add some more in there. After running the bleed procedure a few times, I was worried about my battery running low, so I went ahead and started the car and started letting it cycle through. After a few cycles of refilling the tank, eventually I was pretty happy with the way things were going, so I just went ahead and put the cap on and let it start building pressure and get up to operating temperature. We're sitting at around 224. Now that's with the heat on, completely wide open, full blast. No leaks at all. The area that I was concerned about way down in there doesn't seem to be leaking anything at all. This is everything that we caught from our initial opening of all the hoses and everything. But this seems to be working out pretty well. So again, I'm just watching that temperature there. We're sitting at about 224. I got up to about 230 with the AC on full blast. And I think right now, I think I'm gonna turn it off, let it cool down. We'll check and see after all that depressurizes and all the heat goes away. I'll check and see if we need to top it off again. But so while the car cooled down, I went ahead and buttoned up everything else. Went ahead and got the hood latches all settled back in and also reinstalled the upper radiator support tie bar. I think that's what you call it. After that, before I knew it, the front bumper was back on and we were done. So that's it. We've got a CSF heat exchanger in there and a CSF radiator in there. So we've got a lot of cooling potential in there. The only thing I'm really worried about with this is that little flange at the very bottom on the right, on the driver's side. I've got that capped off right now. I've got a good clamp on there. I don't really know how long that's going to last. I know I saw one on Beamer World that it's actually more of a quick action or quick release cap that they seem to sell. So I may try and get that one. I'm going to just kind of drive this around town until I'm pretty confident that that is going to stay. Hopefully that does. I don't know how much pressure is going to build up in that system, but I mean, with the temperature and everything like that, there's probably going to be some pretty decent pressure in there. So I don't know. I'll have to get back to you guys. Maybe you'll see a YouTube story of me on the side of the road with just coolant everywhere, and we'll know exactly where it came from. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, if I should change out that cap that I put on there, or if that's just going to be adequate or good enough. Don't really like good enough. I really like to have something that's great, that's I know I'm going to trust. So would I do this again? I don't know. I don't know. Time will tell. So, but either way, hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys on the next one.